On a Friday episode of Locked On Raptors, Jake Fischer reporting that RJ Barrett may not be long for the Raptors, and he knows about it. Plus, we'll get into summer vacation watch as we bring the podcast back to its roots.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Friday, August the 22nd, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description of the podcast. Come hang out with our listener family over there. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we're off and running here on a Friday episode of the show where later on we will bring back an old segment from the show that was based on the wonderful column that our guest used to write over at Dime back in the day. Some of my favorite NBA writing of all time, Summer Vacation Watch. The Toronto Raptors, they're in the summer. Some of them are going on vacation. Not a lot of them, seemingly. Is this a problem for the upcoming hopes of the team in 2025-26? We'll get into that later, but off the top, we got to talk about RJ Barrett, who was the subject of some, trade scuttlebutt from Jake Fischer on his Bleacher Report show earlier this week. Here to talk about that, and of course, summer vacations and shorts and pina coladas, et cetera, is Katie Heindl from Basketball Feelings. Katie, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm enjoying my summer.
As we should be doing. It's the summer. It's vacation time. I'm going away in September for a vacation, which I'm quite excited for. So you were at the X yesterday. That's part of summer vacation.
Yeah,
it's all,
I love the X. Also doing a September.
At the X.
The craziest thing I saw at the X?
8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really go for that stuff. I'm a traditionalist. So I had it was really good, but it was like if you've ever had like a cold roll, it was like a cold roll burrito. So it was like a giant cold roll, and then inside they also put a spring roll, like a little fried spring roll. It was really good. I would recommend it. It was like from the pho. I think it's like pho. It's like I'm sorry to these people, but it's like pho 33. It's like it's like the only pho restaurant in the food building. If you go into the food building, I'd really recommend it. It was tasty. And then I always go for some Tiny Tom's donuts.
Oh yeah, man! It's been a minute since I had a Tiny Tom, but now I want them real bad. We'll leave the X talk for later. Hey, X, if you want to sponsor the show and play your annoying jingle on the podcast, happy to do it. We love local podcast sponsors. But anyway, Katie, let's carry on and get into RJ Barrett, a guy who I would imagine has been to the X before as a Toronto guy. You know, as a Mississauga guy growing up. Brampton, whatever, the general broad area that you can get to the X on a train pretty comfortably from. Either way, Jake Fischer from Bleacher Report and, the People's Insider earlier on this week dropped a little bit of intel on the Toronto Raptors regarding RJ Barrett. And essentially the crux of it is the Raptors are going to be looking to buy probably coming into this season to continue to improve the roster. And RJ Barrett is likely to be a guy that they dangle in trade conversations, likely with like other stuff attached, I assume, just based on, if they're trying to find upgrades, you usually got to attach more stuff to a guy to go and get that upgrade. And the sort of, I think, interesting part of it is that Barrett and his representation seem to have been made aware that his name will probably come up in trade talks going forward. We've talked about this. I think it's pretty telegraphed that RJ Barrett is not super long for the Toronto Raptors. He's the only guy of the starting 5 that's projected that is not on a long-term contract, or at least an expensive medium-term contract in the case for Brandon Ingram. He's only got 2 years left on his deal, and the team is very expensive, and they have younger guys who are going to need to be paid in the next couple of years as well. doesn't seem like the Raptors are going to be the team to pay RJ his next deal, especially when you consider the fit concerns, which I think are fair, although maybe a little overblown at times with him and the starting five and the rest of the roster. Katie, what was your sort of first blush response to hearing this? It doesn't seem terribly surprising, but the fact that he is been made aware of this, I think, is at least interesting and worth noting.
Yeah, but I would say there were times in the past when people were made aware of the fact that they were potentially tradable. What it maybe signals to me that this was released as information is like we're in the Bobby Webster era, and I could see that as like, okay, there's it's a two-way street of communication. We're trying to be transparent with guys. We're trying to do ethical basketball deals. Maybe a little bit of that, I think, coming into it in terms of telegraphing what this next era of basketball, Raptors basketball under Bobby Webster looks like. That was my first thought. And then also you got to take all these things with a grain of salt because of course. I think
it's August trade intel. Of course you have to.
Well, August trade intel, but like this, I think especially like this kind of discourse exactly because again, it's not something that RJ Barrett and his agents would have been like unaware of, at the end of last season. I think you and I were already kind of talking about this at the end of last season. So it's
Jake himself reported that he was very much part of the Ingram trade talks in February.
Yeah. And I think we did know that as well at that time. Also, like safety is a ruse in the NBA. Like nobody is safe, which I think we saw like in spades this past season. So, I mean, the optimist in me is glad that they're telling him. Right, is glad that if this is what you're signaling of full transparency and communication in a team like this, sure, that's great. That seems like a good way for your front office to operate.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I do wonder, this is a team that I think sort of prides itself on its collective energy, its vibes, if you will, for lack of a better term. It's been years and I've yet to figure out a better word than vibes to describe vibes. But it does seem like, chemistry and just sort of, everyone kind of pulling in the same direction is not only a thing this team strives for, but it's also going to be a thing that's like pretty important to this team being good at basketball this year. We've talked a lot. We talked earlier this week with James Herbert about how so much of whether this team is going to work on the floor or not is going to be down to adaptation and guys willing to buy into evolving roles. And RJ Barrett is very much part of that. He might be, of all the guys on the team, in line for the biggest drop off in terms of his usage, in terms of his role within the team. And I do wonder if this kind of open secret that he's probably not going to be long for the team, that he is going to be, likely shopped in trade talks going forward. Does that at all for you, Katie, create a concern of there being a bit of a sour note as this team hopes to get off to a good start in a year where they actually kind of need to get off to a good start? Or is this a thing where, reasonable people can kind of operate even with this uncertainty? And because of that open line of communication, maybe it's a bit of a better, more copacetic environment than if it was kind of this not fully spoken about, but kind of obviously telegraphed by the actions of the team thing that RJ might be getting moved somewhere sometime soon. Right? Does this concern you at all?
I think reasonable people can, or at least like do a better job of it. But I think there's a special extra kind of tier within the NBA, which is you kind of need to make yourself okay with it, at least to project, that you are okay with it. Lest things get kind of complicated and tricky. And of course, like you can kind of cast, the irony of it is like, an athlete can often cast doubt on themselves if they seem to be the ones that are sort of pushing back against this, which seems counter to what it should be. If they're the ones that are like, well, wait, like I don't necessarily want to be traded, then they start to look like, oh, well, you're not a team player. And then it trickles down of like the teams that may be interested in grabbing them are like, oh, well, this guy didn't really want to get traded. What's up with that? That's so weird. Where like it's not, but you have to kind of have that outer casing, right?
Yeah.
And just show that you're like, I'm okay with everything. I'm a true professional. Or I think these things can get a little bit messy is with people's sort of extended camps,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my brain keeps thinking about is the Rowan Barrett of it all and Canada basketball of it all, and there's certain maybe optics. But again, I think that the team and that organization, and I would also say RJ's family, have done a really good job, I think, of separating, those two interests. But it is a family that's very involved in basketball in Toronto and the country, so, and kind of the trajectory of it. So that is interesting to me. And I just, on a personal level for them, I'm sure that must suck. Right.
Yeah.
He was really happy to come back here after a very difficult personal year.
Yeah, this is not someone who's like disgruntled and like wants out, and so they're trying to facilitate a move, right? Like by everything you hear, RJ Barrett's thrilled to be playing for the Toronto Raptors, and it certainly is an extra layer of sort of uncomfortability to the whole thing that this is a guy who ostensibly wants to be here. And hey, look, like there is a big portion of the fan base who I think will openly kind of riot if RJ Barrett is traded away. Like I see it every day in the comments, right? Like there is a large swath of the fan base that because he's Canadian, that because he scores points like he did for the Raptors last year, that's just like the kind of guy that people don't want to see moved on from. I think when I look at the team, I'm of the mind that he probably doesn't drive winning as much as some of the other guys on the roster, and I think it probably is better for the team if he has a more scaled back role this coming season. And I still think there's room for him to be successful in that scaled back role. I don't think it's like out of the question that RJ Barrett kind of plays himself out of rumors and back into the future plans. The financials of it all are very difficult to sort out just because they've got so much money committed. But if the team's really good, like if they come out and there's like a red hot heater to begin the year, RJ's looking good as like a fourth or fifth option, working in with second units, I could totally see a world where they say, you know what, like maybe we just let this ride for a little bit. We don't force a trade. If something comes along, great. But also like maybe we just rock with this team. Like that's an outcome here, I think, with RJ Barrett too. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion he's going to get moved. One thing I will say, just kind of thinking about what an RJ Barrett trade would look like or what type of player the Raptors might target, I do think like the example that I think is maybe the one to look to of what the Raptors could try to do here is basically like a version of what the Nuggets did with Michael Porter Jr. getting Cam Johnson, where it's like you turn a more expensive player into a less expensive player who's just like a better fit with your team. Obviously there's a world in which you kind of package multiple salaries together. Maybe it's you go find yourself like a star big man by packaging Pirtle and Barrett or something like that to get really hypothetical about it all. Like there's a million ways this could go, but that's kind of, to me, if I was to sort of guess as to what type of trade they're looking at, the Porter for Cam Johnson vein of trade kind of stands out to me as a possibility. But I don't know if you have any quick thoughts on that, or if we want to move on to summer vacation watch, Katie.
Yeah, I won't speculate on the kind of like moving parts of any theoretical trade just yet.
Yeah, no, it's totally fair. Too early for that. We'll come back on the other side here, Katie, and we will get into what we're really here for on a Friday afternoon. It's summer vacation watch. Where have the Raptors been going this offseason? Spoiler alert, not many places, it seems. Is this a problem? Is this actually good? We will get into that and evaluate the quality of the Raptors' summer vacations coming up in just 1 second as we turn it back to 2019 through 2020 on the podcast when we were really in our peak summer vacation talking about nonsense mode. We'll get into that coming up in a sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. You ever decided last minute to head to the ball game with your friends or family? I've done this with today's guest, Katie Heindl, going to baseball games. And when we go to baseball games, I'm buying those tickets over at Game Time. Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. The weather's really nice. You got a few extra hours you didn't think you might have had. It's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. I love Game Time. Like I said, regular customer. Anytime I've gone to a Blue Jays game in the last, 4 or 5 years, I've bought my tickets with Game Time. It's always the best way to get cheap tickets. And hey, cheap tickets right now for your Blue Jays, who are top of the American League East, not exactly easy to come by. Game Time can help you get the very best deals out there so you can go watch those birds, baby. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Back at it here with Katie Heindl from Basketball Feelings and formerly of the single best summer column, recurring summer column in NBA writing, Summer Vacation Watch. And we're bringing it back to the pod here, Katie. I appreciate you lending your IP to the last couple segments of today's show. Summer Vacation Watch, an important thing. Keeping tabs on what dudes are doing in the offseason, frankly, just as important as what they're doing in the season on the floor, depending on who you ask. And if you're asking us, I think we both would say that, yes. This team does not seem to have a whole lot of travel sauce, Katie, I gotta say. Going through the various Instagram feeds of the members of the Toronto Raptors, not a whole lot in terms of grid quality, grid-worthy photos of far-flung exotic destinations or, activities being partaken in over the course of this summer. We'll get into a couple of guys who have been, seeing some things abroad, but for the most part, a bunch of homebodies, this team, Katie. What's wrong here?
Okay, so few things. They're younger.
Yes.
So I think they're not necessarily going on a lot of trips yet. Maybe some don't feel all that secure yet in their future NBA trajectory. A lot of guys have told me their second contract is the one where they feel like they could finally breathe easy in a lot of ways. I do think that
this
also
is the intel we need. Great.
Yeah. I mean, that they didn't tell me that based on vacations, but I do think that does apply to the off season and the plans that you make within it. So a couple of these dudes, they've got more than a couple, have a few years to go on that. On the kind of like youngness of them, some of them are looking at not necessarily two ways, but they're sort of in this like holding pattern of needing to really prove something. So I think they're probably training all summer. They're a
lot of grinding in that gym. Jamal Shed stands out.
Exactly.
All of his posts are just at the gym again today. Which,
they're training.
Great for Jamal Shed. Yes.
Yeah, they're training. They're not necessarily taking time. I would say R&R is just as important to your training and your NBA career, but whatever. What was the last thing I was going to say? I mean, I think those are the two main things, probably just the youthfulness of them and the fact that a lot of them, aren't necessarily feeling like it's like the next few years are a sure thing. So they've got to do whatever they can to make it that way. The last thing I was going to say is these are like Gen Z and they're Gen Zs, which like, they're like, Instagram is lame. Also, so is posting. I don't really I'm not on, they're like on, it's like you're online a lot, but you're not on these platforms and you're not really, you love like more of a fleeting, you love a TikTok. You're maybe on Snap.
There's no earnest posting anymore.
You're really just
period for earnest
posting. Or you're like curating your feed. So it's like, you go on some of these guys, if they do have Instagram profiles, that it's like, you've got 3 posts from the last year,
Yeah.
It's sparse.
Yeah. Scotty Barnes does not have a grid post since 2023, which is a nice one. That's when he bought his mom a house. That was lovely. But hasn't posted in a long time, on the proper grid. I've become way more of a grid poster since becoming a dad. Let me tell you that. Maybe that's what we need, some more dad energy to really get back to the earnest posting over on the gram. To be clear, I'm not perusing TikTok to follow these guys because I don't use TikTok. I'm old.
I don't get new. Like when I was still writing this column, that was sort of something I grappled with because you could see it trending in that direction. And I was like, am I really going to get Snapchat and TikTok for a bit? No.
No, I'm not. It probably would behoove me just as like, someone who produces content for a living to be on TikTok. But I've made my peace with not having the widest reach in the world. Let's go through some of these vacations. Again, pretty sparse, but let's start with Immanuel Quickley, who I think is probably the most traveled Raptor this summer. A couple of grid posts of him in Paris, driving a little boat on the water. A lot of Eiffel Tower shots. More of him not driving the boat, sitting on the back of the boat, looking at the Eiffel Tower. It's, there's some food stuff in there. He's clearly been eating well in Paris, as one presumably does. I've never been. I hear the food's pretty good. Katie, thoughts on Immanuel Quickley's journeys to Paris? And let's go with a grading system. Out of 5 pairs of swim trunks, give me a grade on all these vacations as we rattle through them. What you got for Immanuel Quickley in Paris?
I was just going to rate this like a freshly baked baguette cracked over
okay,
your
that
knee.
works too. Yeah, we can go specific to the situation.
Cracked over your knee, wearing maybe like a tailored short. I could see him in on that boat that he was kind of tooting around on. So a pretty high rating.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Gotta love a baguette just on its
crust.
own.
Nice crust. There's some steam coming out of it, and
the bread speaks for itself. It doesn't need accoutrement. Maybe a little butter if you want to throw some ham on there. I suppose that's a thing the French do. But yeah, no, just I've been watching a lot of baking show, Katie.
I could tell. I'm
gonna get back into baking.
Wait for the winter, but the time is nigh.
Yeah, it's been a little too hot to have the oven going for many hours at a time, but yeah, I really want to try out making a Jacquard sponge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure maybe he had one of those on his travels, but this did look like a really lovely trip. I am always also wondering who is taking the photos. So I assume he's not alone.
Yeah. He's got a guy for that. Just
because they're great photos. Some of them are very artfully posed. But what I liked about his trip, at least what we got to see of it, was that you have some of these more like set up and staged ones, but you also have this sense of spontaneity of someone just like being in a place they've never been and really enjoying themselves and being like cheesy, and letting themselves be a tourist. No, I like this trip. I'm trying to think if he was there also on the edges. I'm just gonna double check so I don't sound like a really out of the loop. But when Paris Fashion Week is?
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's no, it's too early. Yeah. It's too early. It's the end of September. Gotcha. So he's not. Maybe I don't know. So maybe he's like very early, but I doubt it. So I think he's probably
end
there.
Of September's media day, Katie. He's got to be snapping pics back here.
No, I know. He's probably just there enjoying himself. More proof to that end.
Yeah, I think, he seems to be a guy who likes Europe. He obviously the whole team was in Barcelona last year. Was it Barcelona or somewhere in Spain last year for sort of a pre-training training camp, and seemed like
they were at the sanctuary, right? They were
at
Okay, yes, so that's right, Jose Calderon is a manager of that facility. Yeah. And it's farther south than Barcelona. It's kind of in the Andalusia region, and it's on the ocean.
Right.
I think it's just outside of Malaga, a couple hours outside of Malaga. I've written about that place before. It looks gorgeous. The NBA runs a program that they send guys there every summer. But yes, the whole team went there last summer. That was great.
Yeah. Yet to see if there is any sort of widespread team Europe trip going on this year. It doesn't seem like there is.
Seems a little late.
Yeah, I do think we saw Colin Murray Boyles in Paris as well for a hot second. Although most of Colin Murray Boyles' posting is just really wholesome stuff about how he's proud of his girlfriend Chloe Kitts, which is nice.
Which we respect. Yeah,
100%. A couple other quick vacations here. Then we're going to get into some just suggestions for how they can, go elbows up and vacation in Canada once they're back here, Katie. Because got to talk about geopolitics. Let's go with. So Gradey Dick is the other one who stands out. Weird summer for Gradey Dick. There are two different grid posts from him posing with his truck in what seems like rural Kansas. There's one where he's got like a barn behind him, and there's one where he's got a field of cows behind him, and he's just like on top of the truck, beside the truck, touching the truck, looking at the truck. Interesting. I mean, I assume he's back in Kansas for the summer, which, hey, fair enough to him. That's where he's from. Thoughts on Gradey Dick's big truck summer? Like hot truck summer? Is that where, I don't know. That really seems to be the crux of what his summer vacation has been.
Okay. The funniest post, though, I saw from Grady was during Caravana, and he posted time to get a wine. And I know from personal sources, team sources, Grady really likes Caravana. He liked it since the first time he was taken. He really enjoyed himself. So I don't know if he went like in that picture, he was in I assume this car, in a car with sunglasses on, making a very straight face. So he might not have even been here. So that kind of stinks, but I hope for his case he was. If not, and just like pining for Caravana from a cornfield in Kansas is kind of. Yeah.
I do think he was there this year. I think I saw some posts about him being here this year. So
so the
streak is still alive. Yeah.
There we go. I'm glad to hear that. He had some culture in his cornfield summer. I don't know. Did he get a new truck? It seems really gigantic and
it's like a Mercedes. It's almost out of like if you recall the vehicles in the second Jurassic Park movie. To pull a very specific reference, kind of in that vein.
Seems proud of it, so it's more of like a car photo shoot than anything else. Also, I am assuming his girlfriend took these photos, so shout out to her for getting, because I'm sure you would hate to have seen that camera roll after the fact. The amount of the sheer volume of photos, I'm sure. Get it again.
Why are there so many more pictures of this truck than me, Gradey? What's going on here?
Patience, utmost patience. Yeah.
When will we see a Gradey Dick backflip over the moving truck on TikTok? Who's to say? I won't see it because I'm not on TikTok.
I wonder if Gradey knows how to swim. Growing up in a landlocked state.
Huh.
Something to consider when you
First
also consider.
Media Day question for Gradey Dick.
Do you know how to swim? And I'll get kicked right out.
He seems like the type who would be able to. He's a pretty athletic, and he's got like a swimmer's sort of physique almost. Like I feel like there's potential there if he hasn't learned yet. Now I'm just imagining like Gradey Dick at like swim lessons doing level 1 with.
I'm just thinking of the future vacations to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's all
for sure. Yeah, give him a grade for his big truck summer.
I don't know, man. I guess like I am partial to cord season. Sure. We're seeing it now at the St. Lawrence Market. Another great summer destination, folks. Local to Toronto. $1 an ear. Pretty good deal.
Ooh. So how many ears of corn are you giving his summer?
I guess I'm giving it. I'm only gonna actually give us like 3. Yeah. They're not even shucked.
To your point, your theory of the second contract thing, like Gradey, first contract, hanging out in cornfield with his truck, probably working out a lot. Quickley, second contract, a much publicized second contract that some people are mad about. Glad he's spending those big bucks on a cool vacation.
Yes.
Those are really the only vacations of note. Everyone else seems to be doing a whole lot of nothing. We're going to come back on the other side here, Katie, and we're going to examine whether that's a problem. Is the team too devoted to working out? Or is this actually, portending good things to come in the year to come? We'll also get into where should they be checking out within Canada once they're back here and ready to go. Lots of fun places that could potentially inform success to come in the year ahead. We will get to that to close out the show in just 1 second. Summer Vacation Watch. Wrapping up Summer Vacation Watch here on your Friday episode of Locked On Raptors. Katie Heindl is here. Before we get into Canadian destinations that the dude should be checking out, just wanted to remark upon the stark drop-off. And maybe this is a post-COVID thing too. I think that's got to be kind of baked in as well. But like the stark drop-off in the quality and sort of reach of the vacations of today's Raptors compared with the championship team. Not that we need to compare everything to the championship team because it was his own thing, but like at that time you had Serge Ibaka tiptoeing through the streets of Italy, avoiding the sun. You had Pascal Siakam hanging out with sea turtles and sea stars and all kinds of various tropical locales. You had Marc Gasol using his summer vacation to rescue migrants in the Mediterranean Sea. We've come a long way, and I don't like the way it's gone since then, Katie, with this group. Like RJ Barrett's only summer post was he was in Vegas for Summer League, which, hey, I know you're partial to that. There's nothing wrong with that.
That was my last grid post. So,
wow, Katie, slacking on the summer vacation yourself. This is unbelievable. Is it a problem that they are seemingly not traveling all that far? Is this a byproduct of the team being largely comprised of Americans and maybe Americans being persona non grata in other locations around the world at the moment, more than maybe so in the past? Is this again just sort of a workman-like group that's just grinding tape in the gym and all of that stuff through the summertime? Does this portend bad things for the year to come? Are they going to be rested enough, Katie?
Yeah, I think we've seen they're probably going to be very well rested because they're not going on vacation. They're not taking long haul flights.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the blood clot's not a concern.
Yeah. So, no, I think it goes back to the very specific scientific work-based summer vacation reasons I gave in the second segment.
Yeah.
I would hope that because this is a group who, because they all play in Canada, they all have to have passports. A thing I will say that shocked me when I realized a lot of Americans don't have passports.
Yeah.
Just don't have them. Crazy to me, but that's
why would you ever want to leave there? It's the best place, right?
Yeah. But they have a passport. They spend a lot of time in a different country, obviously. So even with the geopolitics being what they are, I think I would hope they can understand that some of the ire that maybe felt towards their country and the administration in their country, it doesn't necessarily spread onto them. And I would also hope it just, it broadens their like geopolitical, just like general awareness of the world being a much wider place than America. So I would just generally hope they're not going anywhere because they're afraid, which to me is an also really sad American trait.
Yeah. Back to the sort of being in Canada of it all. Yeah.
Wait, no, and I will say of the championship team, they earned a lot of those vacations, and they were
that's fair. Yes.
In a much farther place in their career. So
yeah. Although I will say, Pascal Siakam was a tropical destination guy from the hop. He was first contract, didn't matter. He was going to go and talk to some sea turtles.
Pascal, if you're hurting for summer vacations, Pascal's still having great summer vacations. This summer included, and posting the hell out of them.
Yeah, it's one of the better NBA follows for summer vacation, I think. What's Jimmy Butler doing? I know he was often
he's in China right now.
Champion. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's doing his China tour, but he was in Italy early, right? Cause he went to Italy as soon as they got eliminated.
Yeah. Yeah. That
just
sounds like
hanging out in vineyards, drinking his favorite type of wine, which is called Sassicaia, which is very expensive.
I bet it is. In Canada, Katie, I think a lot of people are checking out the various things we have to offer in this beautiful country this summertime. I'll be doing so next month, going out to Vancouver Island. It's my favorite place in the world. Other places in Canada that you would like to see some grid posts from the Toronto Raptors? They're going to Calgary for training camp this year. Maybe like a Rocky Mountaineer. I think they're offering like a Jasper to Banff Rocky Mountaineer like exclusive trip this summer. That's interesting. Is a train the best place? A sleep train the best place for people who are 6'8"? I don't know. I'm not sure those bunks are set up for NBA level dudes, but there's that. Obviously, you have like the Cabot Trail and the beautiful East Coast. You can go and eat clams and PEI and all that fun stuff. You got any places that you'd like to see pop up on a grid here as the team, I think, sort of finds itself migrating back towards Canada slowly between now and Media Day next month?
Yeah, to your Rocky Mountaineering point, given the demographic, I think, of the people that take that trip, it seems more of a Garrett Temple range, even though I will say the demographic is still about 40 years older than him. But I also could see him really enjoying that. And I could see a lot of the younger guys being so bored. So probably not that. Okay. On the note of wine, I'm a fan of Niagara on the Lake. I will say is come a long way in terms of the production. Southern Ontario produces some great pet nats, which is more of like a younger wine because they're obviously not old vines. They're young as anything. I was in Niagara on the Lake last week for a day trip, hit some farm stands. We found a honor system peach stand.
Yeah.
$5 a bushel for peaches. Wow. Unheard of.
That's crazy.
Honor system. I could have robbed the whole stand. I didn't. I paid for 2 bushels.
Surprised you didn't, considering your affinity for stone fruits.
Dude, it's crazy. I was like, there's 20 bushels here. We could just put them all in the car and go. Anyway, drank a lot of wine. There's some brewery there. It's also just a fun place. A lot of people are biking around on bike tours. I could see them doing that. I know this generation also doesn't really like to drink that much, but it's pretty light drinking out there, light wines. Yeah. They're not going to set you back. So that's a good one. I already talked up the St. Lawrence market. We already talked up the CNE. There's a lot you can do in Toronto. Myself have been really trying to lean into having like a Toronto summer vacation, local summer vacation. Go to the island, go to Wards Beach, go early. Hanlon's is going to be slammed. Maybe you're not comfortable with nudity. So you could go to Wards. You could go to, there's a lot of beaches. You could rent a bike on the island, bike around. Nobody's going to bug you. It's chill as anything over there. What else, Sean? You mentioned East Coast. That's great. I have a few friends going out there for the first time. Halifax, Newfoundland, PEI. You can only go to Newfoundland
as long as you're doing it ethically. Yeah.
Probably for like 2 more weeks and not start to have terrible weather. But you could do it. Montreal in the summer, as someone who lived in Montreal through the winters, that's the only reason you live there, for the summers.
Yeah.
Beautiful place to be. And then in terms of Calgary, I will say you don't have to go all the way to Banff. I have great friends who live in Calgary. When I've gone to visit, we've driven just like an hour outside of the city into the Kananaskis Mountains. You can go up to some like gorgeous glacial lakes, hike around them. There's a lot to do, man.
I need to see when they're in Calgary, the team making a trip to the the Royal Tyrrell Museum in Drumheller, where they have like all of the dinosaurs and the Badlands and everything.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like that'd be thematic and on point. That's a place I really, really want to get to. Get the full T-Rex skeletons and everything like that. I'm sure they have some Raptor stuff. Although, of course, as we know, the Velociraptor is depicted on the Raptors logo and in Jurassic Park, not exactly in line with what a Velociraptor was. Velociraptor more sort of turkey size. We're probably looking at more of like a Deinonychus that was really depicted, called the Velociraptor because it just sounds better off the tongue than Deinonychus. But, we don't need to get into the weeds with dinosaur naming terminology, but that's fine.
Albertosaurus
Royal Tyrrell.
from Canada.
Albertosaurus. There you go.
Tiny elbows up,
of course, too. Yeah.
Tiny elbows up.
Yes. Tiny elbows up. Hell yeah. We're going to leave it there, Katie. Go to the Badlands and pick just the whole team digging up a skeleton together. How fun would that be?
I don't think they would let them do that, but sure. It sounds like a good
I think they do have it's like the kiddie area where you can go and dig up some stuff. Yeah. Just like go and, find some fossils. Not the big boys, of course. Although, hey, the beautiful thing about paleontology is anyone can go do it. If you got a brush and a little axe, you can go.
Also,
and you can
not
try to
true.
dig up your own stuff wherever you
but
want.
Okay,
it's 100% true, Katie. You can go be a fossil nerd all on your damn own, and you just got to know where to look. You got to know where those deposits are. Anyway, Katie, we're going to leave it there before I reveal more of what a giant-ass dork I am about dinosaurs.
Or what type of bones you're out there stealing at night. Jeez.
We'll save that for maybe a later summer episode where I just talk about dinosaurs and weave it into the Raptors theme somehow. I know too much about dinosaurs for a 32-year-old man. We're gonna leave it there though. Katie, anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Yeah, I'm going to promote. Look at this, Sean. I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to promote Basketball Feelings, where Exits is wrapping up this week. Yours truly.
My desk.
He pulled his hand. Yours truly is going to be writing about the Thunder. Spoiler alert, it's mostly about Shea. It is also a lot about Hamilton, Ontario.
We love to hear that. The Shea rally was a big deal. I biked by it last week. It was popping down there at the stadium. Can't wait for the Hamilton. You were asking me about geography of Hamilton for this. I'm very excited. I can't wait to be, credited as a source for you. It's looking forward to reading that for sure. We're going to leave it there. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in and rocking with the show, of course. And we'll be back again next week as, maybe we'll talk to someone about the RJ Barrett thing. Maybe we'll talk about more dinosaurs. Maybe we'll get into more weird things that I'm a giant ass dork about. Who's to say? We will come back and do all that next week. In the meantime, follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, join the Discord, all that good stuff. Thanks so much for hanging. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Damn it.